to entrust the interim
the Research Institute code, and also member of different advisory board, the governing boards in European agency and industry, but it's also like our coordinator for the Concordia project. So Gabi, the floor is yours.
Thank you very much, Antonio, and also thanks a lot for the really deep insight, Miguel, for the ECC. I have the pleasure and honor to moderate the panel about how we can help the community to structure or help the community help the ECC. We heard today now how it will be structured and built. And I have the pleasure to have very good panelists here. And I would like to introduce them first and then ask also, starting with the statement, how can the community, what is their perspective, how the community can help the ECC. And since we heard from Miguel, I would also like to start with Martin Übelhör. He is head of sector at the European Commission and probably can say also from the Commission side how to structure the community, how the community could help the ECC. Martin, your statement, please.
Good morning, Gabi. Good morning, Antonio, everybody, fellow panelists, my colleague Miguel, is still around, and people in the audience. Thanks again for the invitation. It's difficult to speak right after Miguel, who said it all. So I don't want to just say it all again. To start with, the theory is that the European Competence Centre and the network of national coordination centers, that they help the community. I mean, they want to promote. I mean, we have this objective of creating resilience, creating competitiveness, mainstreaming technologies, commercialization. All the objectives which we know that we have in the regulation. So the community is kind of that we want to build and support. But I understand that the question, Gabi, is that today in this kind of build-up phase, how can very concretely the community as represented by Concordia and others, how can you kind of contribute? And I think it's a very good question, because we need engagement, and we need it already today. So, as Miguel said, at the end of the day, the Competence Centre and also this kind of network of national coordination centers is about joint priority setting, okay, and about creating kind of tighter networks and structures between let's say the governments like EU member states, even regional, the industry, the research communities. So it's a kind of I think a lot of it is about priority setting, and it's both top down and bottom up. And I think you will be interested in the bottom up. So I mean, we in the Commission, we have policy priorities on whatever, on 5G security, on critical infrastructures, etc. And we have now this kind of ecosystem approach where the member states can bring in their public policy needs and suggestions. But I think at the end of the day, we're public officials, that we're kind of limited in terms of our knowledge of what is going on the ground. I mean, at least speaking for myself. So we want the input from the community, bottom up. And so I think we want creative ideas. Okay, and so I mean, you know, kind of the very big picture everybody knows and kind of everybody agrees, but I think we, on the one side, we want creative ideas that really come from the community, from the experts, from the people that work on these challenges. And another thing that we as you know, the public side of things require is some kind of a consolidated stakeholder view on certain aspects. Okay, because we want to be sure that, you know, kind of that, let's say, our investment priorities that we will put in these work programs, that they, you know, that they represent really kind of not the consensus, but at least, you know, kind of a broad shared view of what needs to be done. Okay, and so I think some work is ongoing. I mean, there's the EXO working groups, they're the focus groups of the 4 pilots on different topics. My personal impression is that some focus groups are in deeper cooperation, let's say, than others. So let's just take this as kind of a general encouragement on this, because the more kind of concrete, useful outputs that we get about who needs to do what, and I'm not only talking about where to invest, but really kind of in terms of stakeholder interactions within the sector, who needs to do what. So the more concrete and the more consolidated kind of inputs that we get into these decision-making bodies, I think that's in the interest of all of us. Yeah, and then, I mean, just to kind of conclude, we have certain particular, let's say, chapters or aspects where we would like this community input that we'd like to cover, you know. Obviously, I mean, starting with research, kind of research roadmaps, or kind of what is kind of the research horizons, you know, where should we go next? I think that goes without saying, that will not surprise anyone. But also, I mean, and then linking back to all the challenges that we have identified. So kind of concretely, how can we get better at commercializing our research outputs? How can we support startups and SMEs to first to come about, and secondly to grow, and thirdly to grow in Europe? How can we concretely support, you know, let's say, operational cooperation, information sharing, you know, our concept of security operation centers. I mean, how to concretely put this into practice using the newest technologies, but also plugging into existing structures in the economy, among businesses and the public authorities. What about you know, synergies between the civilian and the military side of cybersecurity? You know, kind of how can we have better synergies there, avoid double funding, you know, through public procurement, but also, you know, how to have a better kind of proper internal market to have the right, you know, technology providers to be active on this. Yeah, how to deal with disruptive technologies, artificial intelligence, etc. How to work with the verticals, so let's say the kind of critical infrastructure sectors that we have in the NIS directive, the proposed revision. I mean, how to concretely support. I mean, these people have obligations under regulation, but how to concretely put it in practice, how to have, you know, to do this in kind of a cost-effective way and in a really kind of impactful way, let's say. Supporting certification framework, and also how to, in practice, share, let's say, the infrastructure side of cybersecurity. I mean, kind of what are, let's say, test beds or cyber ranges, etc., that are really needed in the economy and in the kind of application fields. And, you know, and who has what, and how can we share this, and how can we further develop it? let's say, in coordination with market forces, but also kind of in a kind of with a public sector support and a coordinated way. With that, maybe I leave it there, and looking forward to the discussion.
Thanks again, Martin. Very good. Now let's go to the example or from the member states. Maybe Sabin Popescu. Sabin Popescu is head of analysis, policies and cooperation from the Romanian National Cybersecurity Directorate. And Sabin, how can you or how can Romanian help build the community, help to build the ECC? What's your opinion on this?
Thank you very much for having me, Gabi. It's a very, very important and necessary debate because as it is even at the ECCC and NCC, there are novelties, let's say, in this field, that it's very dynamic and we need to be adapted and need to be in the pace with the evolution of technology in this field. So from the perspective of Romania, even for us, it is something very new. So it was a lot of energy put in these demarches to try to do the best in order to try to stimulate the debate and the activities in this field. So once we hosted the European Cybersecurity Competence Centre here in Bucharest, even our intention is to generate those ideas and those activities in order to be a successful démarche and to contribute to the European unique digital market in order to stimulate that engine of development. So from our perspective, it's important, first of all, to try to generate a kind of connected pipes or connecting vessels in order that the information to circulate very, very fast and very, very efficient. So from this perspective, we assess that it's important to reach the level of a very, very strong and clear cooperation between ECCC and NCC, trying to regulate and to clarify all the aspects, and after that to turn our look to the community. This process, in a way, in our perspective, have to be made in parallel because the community, it's very important, and we consider that as very, very clear and very, very exhaustive informing of the community, it's very, very necessary. So from this perspective, the community need to know what problem have to be addressed by the ECCC and NCCs, what form of the dialogue could be achieved, and what the framework of the debates could be established. So we consider that the minimum package of unitarian informing of the community would be very important for this, and would be one of our proposals in order to clarify the community what is about in all this framework and what the perspectives and the necessary steps to be made ahead would be. So from the perspective of the community, we think as well that each country has its own structure and organization in that. There are federal states, there are unitarian states, there are centralized states, and so on. So from this perspective, we consider that each state need to make the mapping of the interested stakeholders in this regard and the needs that these stakeholders have. As well, each national NCC that would be established, among the attribution and the responsibilities established by the regulation, need to have a core of common activity of the European Union 11 in order to approach the thing in a very, very unitarian way and try to identify the priorities and the needs for the future. Because you probably will be agree with me that the dynamic of the process is very, very high, and each delay in this regard would be very, very damaging for us. From our perspective, this NCC of Romania would be probably established under the coordination of the Prime Minister, trying to assure even the power in the activity that it's going to be made, and as well the equidistance among other authorities and other ministries, for example, in Romania. So from this perspective, there are even some nuclei of other community members that are those cyber hubs that are established in Romania. There are a number of about 16 cyber hubs spread all around the country, usually in the academic centers, in the academic cities in Romania. And as well, these digital innovation hubs that are some projects in ongoing process now that are represented in each regional development of the Romanian territory. So these would be, let's say, in our vision, the first partners of the community in Romania. Not speaking about the academic activity that we are envisaged, we consider that we still have about 16 universities in Romania that are developing cybersecurity programs, and they have cybersecurity activities ongoing. So this will be as well as member of the academia, the partner. An important process as well, it's the need of supporting the small and medium enterprises, because after our experiences, even what in the moment when the small and medium enterprise is trying to promote their products or their services, doesn't matter how good those achievements of them are, it is a difficulty because it's no guarantee that those products could be received by a, let's say, a bigger customer, having in mind that it's not a support and not a name, not a brand behind this. So trying to gather together all these pieces of the puzzle from different categories of community members, we are trying to, well, clarify the main ideas and to promote the most important program in order to be stimulated by investments, by the funds offered by even by ECCC and NCC, and as well to trying to harmonize this with the needs of the other countries at the European Union level. Because okay, could be considered there are some particularities, some interests of different member states country, but it's a core of the activities that need to be the same, need to be useful for all the the European Union member states. And this would be, let's say, the bulk of the activity, and in a subsidiary, let's say, trying to stimulate even some exceptions, let's say, but that are as well very useful for the whole of the structure of the European Union economy. So regarding the competence center, as I mentioned, we will do our best to cooperate with all the member states. Will be open in this regard and trying to do the best in this field. Thank you very much for the time being.
Thank you, Sabin, very much. So let's go to Sweden. Let's go to Christoffer Karsberg. He is Senior Advisor from the Swedish Civil Contingency Agency. And Christoffer, what is your viewpoint on this?
Hello, everyone. Thanks a lot. I'm very happy to participate in this panel together with all of you. First, some background. We are now preparing for some background about the MSB, which is assigned to support and coordinate the information and cybersecurity work in society. And we have the national CSIRT in the agency, and we carry out cybersecurity research projects, and we finance a national cyber range, and we are the national contact point for the NIS directive. And right now, we are finalizing a recommendation paper on supply chain security. And my role here is to start preparing for setting up the Swedish National Coordination Center within the agency. And we are right now responding to a government assignment on a proposal of the design of this NCC. And one important part of this is, of course, the build-up and coordination of the competence community. So I will give you some thoughts on the topic, on how the community can support the competence center. And I will say my ideas on how the community can support to the discussion later on. But I think that the ECCC has a very interesting and also challenging task ahead, and will need all the support it can get. And but since everyone is aiming at the same goal, I think the help will be there. The goal is obviously to increase the independence in the EU when it comes to cybersecurity research and innovation, and also to generate competitive edges in an international context. So this is a common goal. So what kind of support is needed here? Well, first of all, I think it is important to get the right composition of members in the community. A balance of both the demand and supply side is important, and members that actually are willing to invest some of their time and budget to participate in activities and working groups that the Competence Center initiates. Because the members should somehow know that this is a commitment kind of thing to be part of the community. You cannot expect to sort of free ride on others and to just use the community to get contacts and leads. This is a sort of a joint, it's really a cooperation. So the NCCs and the Competence Center have a pedagogic challenge here. How do you explain the expectations and at the same time motivate participation? So I think communicating the pitch for attracting the right members is important here, and to sort of build a we feeling, some kind of a branding. Why not a common logo for the community members? Somehow something that makes the members feel that they are part of something. I guess I will wait with my thoughts on how the community can help the Competence Center to the discussion. So I stop here for now. Thank you.
Thanks a lot. Last but not least, Sirko Höer. He is an IT security expert in the Bundesamt für Sicherheit und Informationstechnik, so our Federal Bureau of Security. And Sirko, what is your view here?
Thank you for the kind introduction, Gabi. It's a great opportunity to exchange our knowledge and ideas about the important role of the community around the NCC and ECCC, the NCCs. So if you take a look at what our European Cybersecurity Competence already has, they have already approved communities established, and we could use, or we should use the benefits of those up and running communities to implement useful processes or tools for the ECCC and also for the NCC networks. And the focus is the research, of course, in the field of cybersecurity. One example, and I think I don't want to mention all of these groups, the NIST Cooperation Group, or for example, the CSIRT or the Cyclone Network. And finally, the ENISA plays also an important role in these networks. And yes, we can use these kind of networks because they are established now to find our useful processes to establish the ECCC and to improve this. But also we can look at our national networks. For example, Germany has the so-called Alliance for Cybersecurity, and it's founded in 2012. And it's a cross-organizational German community platform with over 5,000 members, starting with small companies to the industry. And we have also a wide range of distributed communities and digital hubs. And one of our big challenges to connect all of these hubs in the way that all can benefit from it. So there are numbers of groups and of different stakeholders. So If we look at the industry, small and medium-sized companies, these companies could or can influence the focus on research topics, for example. And they have the capability to provide the required employees or the budget. So we have to listen to those industry and those companies. We can also look at the startups as the audience and the people in the panel as mentioned. The startups are, in my opinion, the innovation powerhouse of our community and of our economy. So we should support these startups because they have ideas and innovations and disruptive technology in the area of cybersecurity. The last thing, I think that the research and science area is also very helpful for the ECCC in terms of the experience of the funding applications. So the process of funding applications is sometimes very hard, I think. So we have to improve these processes, and we can benefit from this experience. And maybe it could helpful that this institution give us advice to improve those processes. And yeah, that's it for the moment. I think the discussion will follow.
Yes, thanks a lot, Sirko. Very good points. And now we have, of course, possibilities to start questions. So please, the audience, type in the questions, and so that we can have a good discussion. And a first question goes to Martin. And he says about what is the idea to create startups and make money with cybersecurity? Is this realistic? Isn't cybersecurity like health or the police, something basic? Martin, what would you say?
Yeah, thanks for the question. I mean, it's both. I mean, security is a public good. I mean, which is one of the reasons why public servants such as myself, you know, are kind of occupied with it. So absolutely. I mean, there's a big aspect to that, of course, which, by the way, is one of the justifications for us to invest heavily in cybersecurity. When we invest here, when we spend public money on cybersecurity actions, we always need to, let's say, justify ourselves why this is not state aid, why this is not a distortion of kind of market forces. Okay. But in the cybersecurity field, we always have kind of a relatively easy kind of answer to that, which is exactly what you point out, that this is kind of not all related to the market directly, and that security is a public good. On the other hand, it is a fact that services, in industry services and products relating to cybersecurity are a huge market. And they're a hugely growing market. The market is growing by 10% every year. And unfortunately, it is also a fact that we in Europe, we don't have so many, you know, companies which are really present in that market on a, let's say, kind of on a global scale. Okay, we have many small companies. We have many very kind of innovative companies. We have a few companies which are really kind of active on cybersecurity products and services internationally. But there are limits to that, and this is one of the many objectives of the initiative is to change that.
Okay, thank you. So startups, the point is certainly how we can organize the community with a network of national competence centers and the broader community with the pilots, with EXO and the ECC. And we heard also strategic priorities. We cannot do everything immediately. So the question is, from your perspective, what would be the first one or two priorities that would we need to address, or that the European ECC has to do to support the building of the communities? So maybe the other way around now, the discussion. And maybe I can here start with Sirko, as for have been the last. Maybe
Yes.
yes.
In my opinion, the first priority, I think, is to provide a communication platform, as we know, like workshops, trainings, briefings, or conferences, to already established methods to clarify the community that there are opportunities, to clarify that there are opportunities that we as the ECCC can support these companies. If they don't know that they have an opportunity to support, they can't join us. So we have to promote this. So in the first phase, I think. And the next one is, I think, the transparency and the manageable funding process. So if the funding process is very difficult and time consuming, I think it's trickier for a company that they apply on it. If they need more than 2 or 3 months to apply on this, I don't think that. I think that the company is do this. The company won't apply on this. So to see that was the two priorities. I think the transparency and the manageable funding process, and also the advice that we support all of these companies.
Okay, thank you. And maybe Christoffer, what is your opinion about this? Priorities?
Yes, I agree very much about the basic structure, and that we really need to provide a good platform to ease participation and networking. I think also generally that it is important to have a discussion between the ECC and the network of NCCs in order to agree on what will the ECC support be at the European level and what will the NCC support be at the national level. And then to sort of build it organically, not do everything at the same time. Just to build the community, I mean, to have this European community to organize things, organize matchmaking events at European level, organize conferences with interesting content, expert talks and displays, joint fairs, showcasing results would be popular to attend and to showcase on, to have this natural forum for displays and information exchange. And of course, about, I mean, the basic parts from the ECC to support the community with the information about the priorities and programs ahead. That's from the ECC part to the community.
Okay, thank you. Sabin, what would be your viewpoint on this?
Well, in my opinion, first of all, I think that would be the necessity of speeding up the process of being operationalized the competence center and the NCCs, and to establish the strategies for development, I don't know, at least to medium term, because this will offer an image even from the community, what in fact is needed, and where it's the niche when they could contribute and to bring their add value to these processes. On the other side, I think it's necessary to establish even the criteria, because as it in the regulation of Competence Center is saying, the member of the community will be registered by the Competence Center to the proposals of the national NCCs. So there are some criteria in the regulation that have to be accomplished by the member of the future community. And it's necessary to establish quite clear to not offer expectancies, for example, for the different entities that are not qualifying here. So this would be a debate to establish quite clear who could become member of this community, because with all the respect for a very, very small, medium-sized enterprises, but maybe an enterprise with, I don't know, 2, 5, 6 employees could not become such kind of member because they are not accomplished the criteria. So we have to be very, very careful to not generate frustration in this regard, and to explain very, very clear what the criteria and what the needs and what the dimension, let's say, of this new member of the community had to have in order to have the possibility to bring add value here. And this process has to be very, very transparent. And these small members have to not be discouraged to do this, but at least to, I don't know, work together and to join with other small entities in order to, well, pass the threshold, let's say, that could be established by each country in its own way. But as I mentioned, this could be a discussion probably even the national NCCs in order to establish a common core of criteria and procedures in order to have the possibility to, I don't know, recommend the members of the community. This would be in the first. And as well, as I mentioned, this process and flow of communication among all these entities, and what is important for the members of the community to have access to do the group debates, even in the Competence Center, even NCC, in order to express their need and their will. Because these institutions are not generated at the level of for the sake of be generated an institution, is to solve a need. So if you are not hearing exactly what's happened on the field and what the needs of the industry and the academia and so on are, we can't generate good strategic plans for the future. Of course, we have to look even around in other geographic area to see what's happened there, what the steps are made in this field of activity, to well have a look to the plans and to development that are happening there. But this would have to be a balance among what's happened in the European space and what's happened all around the world. And in these groups of cooperation and working groups organized by Competence Center, by the NCCs, with the community, to try to debate and to try to draw the necessary conclusion in order to, well, achieve that goals that we are imposing to be a leader in the cybersecurity field in the world.
Thank you. I like the word leader of cybersecurity in the world. The question is, of course, we have now these mechanisms. We need more cooperation, more coordination. Are we missing something? Is something that we say, okay, we have now the ECC, we have several institutions, we have the network of NCCs, the community. And so what would be maybe idea, what is missing is this architecture? What do we maybe need something more? Is there something missing? Maybe it's nothing, then it's good. But maybe some thoughts about this. And maybe Christoffer, from your side, what would you say if you see how this is built?
No, actually, I don't see that building block is missing. I think the composition is, from a design point of view, very nice. And the challenge now is to get this rolling and for all the parts of this 3 Unity ecosystem to find their roles, and so that all the different roles can encourage and inspire each other at a national and European level. I think that the ambition here is to make the links between the national and European level, so that all the members at national level feel that they are part of a European community as well.
Okay, maybe a thought from Sirko, from your perspective. I think you should be unmuted, sorry.
I'm sorry. I'm sorry. I think about this question the last 5 minutes. So yes, I think there is no other building as we see in the structure. So I think it's very a good structure. What we personally need is more capacity in employees in the public building, for example. We in the NCC of Germany are a few people. So if the community is contribute these networks and contribute some thoughts and ideas, it could be that we are we can't act on, or we can't act on these contributions because of the lack of our working employee things. So I think this is the problem, essential problem, especially for small EU member states. Small EU member states have less people that can work on acting on contributions for the NCCs. So I think that is one of this point, and I think also we have to listen to your stakeholder. So with different aspects. So the difficult relation to the cybersecurity. We have to listen to the difficulties related to the cybersecurity. That would I will say, and we have to act on this, of course. So if we don't have the capacity, we can't act on this. But this is a national problem, not the ECCC problem.
Okay, thank you a lot, Sabin. Maybe your thoughts about this. Now Martin is listening. You can say what's missing here.
I think the design it's very nice. It's quite articulated and efficient from our perspective. What's needed, in our opinion, it's the driven force to speed up the process and to try to achieve the necessary steps in order to get in those position we are intent. On the other hand, probably it's would be a problem, let's say, to try to convince some decision makers, at least in Romania, for example, in order to see with clear eyes this process and the need to speed up. Because otherwise, without the support of the authorities, with the investment in this field of activity, it'd be very complicated. Doesn't matter how good the plan is. So it's needed to have the support of the authorities, good understanding. We are doing our best to try to convince them and to mobilize them in order to be supportive in this regard. On the other hand, and the third let's say, point would be the need of qualified people to try to be involved in this kind of activities, because okay, it's a kind of granularity now. The private sector, it's attracting a lot of people. These kind of activities driven at the national level have to be made by the public institutions or the public bodies. So it's quite difficult at a certain moment to attract very, very skilled people and try to compete with the private sector. We will try to do it. And at least in our opinions, to try to use the young people that are at the beginning of the career but are very enthusiastic, and to have such kind of people here in Romania, at least to use them in a very, very, let's say, profitable way for us and even for them, to try to shape them, to teach them what to do, but to have them at least 4 or 5 years at the beginning of their career to try to build such kind of things. Even it's a effort from the people that are training and them and they are guiding them. But it could be a solution, let's say, if you don't have the resources to attract the very, very skilled and specialized people. But the human resources in this kind of activity, it's a very difficult way. And I looked even with education, that it's I saw a question in the chat that it's very important. So it's needed to have, because cybersecurity, probably having in mind the evolution of the digitalization and all these activities with 5G and the next generations and with IoTs, would need more and more people specialized in cybersecurity. So it's a strong room in this regard in order to go ahead and to train and prepare people. And the universities will have a lot of work to do. So from this perspective, not only the preparing and I don't know, generating new experts in this field, but at least even to educate people to use the activity, starting with programs for small children to the old people, in order to try to avoid the most fable ring from the chain, in order to exploit in a very, very appropriate manner the computers and the network. So these would be, in my opinion, the 3 main, let's say, things and steps that have to be improved in this process that is now ongoing and established with the Competence Center and the system. Thank you.
Thank you. Yes, and let's conclude the part in terms with education. Felicia asked, education in cybersecurity is one of the important ingredients in reaching sovereignty in Europe. How do you see the education providers onboarding and integration in the ECC community? And maybe I start with Sirko.
So it's a good question. And I think it's a matter of discussion, of an ongoing discussion for the prospective NCC Germany. But to get a little context, the German NCC is structured in 4 ministries, and one of those are the Ministry of Education. So we like to use existing capacities. So we can hand over these requests, for example. So if we need expertise in this area, so we can use these capacities. We have also a wide range of universities in Germany with a heavy focus on cybersecurity, like Darmstadt or Munich. And several others. So we can connect these, but I think they are already connected. These universities to improve these education and give not only the education to students, then more than to employees. That's also very important, that the employees have the opportunity to learn more about cybersecurity. It's an issue that is not very old. So That's my opinion on it. I think it will work very well.
Okay, Christoffer, maybe your opinion about education?
Yes, this is a very big topic in Sweden, of course, also, and the situation is, I think, like in many countries, that we have universities that offer education in this field, and they also have good links internationally between other universities. The question is, how are the links between the universities in Sweden, and is there a possibility of cooperation and synergies, and how to sort of pool resources in order to build stronger offers in education? And we are discussing this. I mean, there are countries that have like cyber campuses that are virtual or physical, that sort of, you know, they build on experiences from different colleges and universities, and they can share resources and so on. So this is an ongoing discussion, and then yes, of course, I mean, to engage in the community is like the least entry point, and to share experiences and maybe benefit from each other instead of perhaps competing, which is quite common in the research field as well, and university. Yes.
Thank you very much. Sabin, maybe your viewpoint on education?
So we are very preoccupied, and even one of the direction of activity of the new cybersecurity directorate that was setting up in September this year in Romania, a new institution that replaced, let's say, the old Dreo, and have a lot of other new responsibilities, trying to be adapting to the new realities of cyberspace. It's the education. It's one of our best and very important preoccupation. We still have, we already have some connections with universities and other institutions here in Romania. And the thing is the follow, because in the years to come, our vision is that the cybersecurity would be a kind of constant of the educational processes on different stages. Doesn't matter the age of the people. So it will be a level in the schools, trying to, well, learn and to educate people in the sense of trying to exploit in a very, very appropriate manner of the ICT technologies. On the other hand, will be training, the training of the experts in this regard, and after that, the training of the employees. So all these activities have to be established in the coherent way, trying to well, getting getting together to the table the people involved in these kind of activities from the academic area, from the industry, and even the public systems, because probably in each country some attacks are favorized by the wrongdoing by the employees. Doesn't matter if it's an intention or not. So the employees have to be a target even of the educational process in the future. But these activities have to be established together and to be deployed in a very, very coherent way, not to try to do something for the sake of introducing a new, let's say, element in the curricula, but from the practical point of view, to see what the needs are, what the big issues and big problems of the cyber are in a country, for example, that is Romania, and after that to establish very, very calibrated programs in order to try to mitigate at least possible the dangers and of the attacks and the dangers of the damages that well, major attack could produce to the society, to the education system, and so on. And we face now, for example, a lot of situation when the online learning system. It's affected by the interference of different bad guys that are, I don't know, turmoil the activities and not allowed even these pandemic conditions to try to have a very, very reasonable process of education. So there are a lot of other things that have to be mapped to see what is about and to try to generate things. It's a process that probably will have to be speed up because the time it's not waiting. The things are evolving very, very fast. And well, we need to work together with the other authorities and with the Ministry of Education in Romania in order to achieve this. Thank you.
Thank you very much. And the last question goes to Martin. And say, to what extent and in what way the ECCC community could or should engage in dialogue and collaboration with non-European cybersecurity powerhouses? You have the last word.
Thank you. Maybe if I can still on the education and skills question.
Sure.
I mean, not to, I mean, to keep it short, that, I mean, this kind of, as this is identified as, let's say, one of the main kind of challenges which we need to address. There is, and Felicia herself will know, there is good work going on between the 4 pilots and EXO to kind of have a, let's say, consolidated view around kind of cybersecurity in education. ENISA is working on the kind of a skills framework for cybersecurity, model curricula, things like this. So I mean, not everything needs to be kind of be in uniformity, but I think it's good if we get kind of resources available, you know, to the community, to universities, for them to pick and choose, to make it easier to set up programs on cybersecurity. But I think much more can be done. Much more can be done in terms of distributing. I mean, kind of mainstreaming the resources and the knowledge that exist. And last but not least, I would like to highlight that with the Digital Europe program, we will make serious resources available for exactly this kind of work. Christoffer mentioned, for example, you know, partnering between universities for setting up, I don't know, you mentioned, but like master programs, just for one example, or partnerships, you know, for professional training and internships. So we will have 160 million euros available for these different activities. This doesn't only cover cybersecurity. Cybersecurity is a priority area in this. So and these opportunities will become available very soon. So I think the colleagues in the audience may want to look out for that. But now, so I try to buy myself some time before answering Giacomo's question about the you know, kind of non-European cybersecurity powerhouses. Listen, the community itself, or kind of you know, entities or groupings, networks within the community, they should do exactly what they please. Okay. For us here on the, let's say, government side of things, it's complicated. We had a long discussion about how open the Digital Europe program, for example, should be, and even the Horizon Europe, the long-established Horizon Europe work program, how open it should be to entities from third countries. And you will not be surprised that there are different approaches in different member states. I mean, there are different cultures, there are different economic situations. So from the policy side of things, it's difficult to formulate kind of a single position on this. Just to say that the Competence Centre, the regulation itself, has an article which says the ECCC may engage in international cooperation. Obviously, we are trying to learn from what is going on in other places around the world. Right? There are kind of countries like Israel that have really managed a kind of, let's say, kind of an industrial policy, if you want to call it this way, for cybersecurity startups, where we can learn. And so I don't think we're kind of blind to that, but there's this whole kind of political kind of aspects around this. But this is not to say that the entities in the community, so the companies, the universities, the research labs, they should do exactly as they see fit.
Thank you very much. It was really interesting and a really good discussion. And unfortunately, we are at the end of our time. I would deeply like to thank the participants in the panel, thank also the audience for the questions. And it's cool to build something strong in cybersecurity in Europe because it's an important part. So thank you once again all, and all the best. Bye.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Have
Bye.
a great day. Bye.
Thank you very much, Gabi. Thank you all the panelists. So now we're going for a lunch break and see you back at 13:30. So in 1 hour and a half. Enjoy your meal.